Me. I better be careful. Good morning and welcome to everyone who's not usually here. I see new faces, a lot of friends. I have the controller today. So let's see if we can... So how was your week? Great week, yeah. Challenging. Okay, yeah. I heard about the school children on the bus. Yeah, they can be challenging. Yeah, it was an amazing week actually. There was a conference of hope on Friday night. Yeah, and I saw it later on YouTube, and you can catch it again. It's really inspiring. Please do so. And as has been suggested, let us take that declaration and deliver it to the embassies around the world. Yeah, the Japanese embassy especially. Let's sign it and send it to declare that we really want religious freedom around the world. The other great thing which happened yesterday, Saturday, was it was Dirk Gardner's birthday, I hear. Happy birthday, Dirk. I had to say that because the two other special events happened yesterday. Our sister Sadia Kabeya turned up on the World Cup final, and she really performed well. Unfortunately, we didn't make it, but we were one person down, so right from the beginning. But it was great to have a blessed child, first blessed child on a World Cup final. And later that evening, there was another first, the first blessed child to play in the English Premier League match. Dexter Jongwoo Lembikisa came onto the field, 65 minutes. Dexter Lembikisa, he plays for Wolves, so he came on for the first team in the English Premier League. First time a blessed child, I believe, has appeared on the English. It's not easy to get into the English Premier League. Most of the players on the field yesterday when he was playing, we were playing at the World Cup. It's an amazing thing. And to think that both of them are from this community, that's amazing, right? What are the chances of it? All of you out there, you can do amazing things, I'm sure. I was, yesterday was, of course, unfortunately, he was playing against Arsenal. So it wasn't much of a challenge because it's only Arsenal. Actually, Arsenal haven't actually played any team above them this season. So it's not much of a... I'll give you a while to figure that out. Yes. Yeah, so anyway, my responsibility today is to give the sermon. So I shall do that. Yeah. But first, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago, this was an Irishman, an Englishman, a Nigerian, and an Indian walked into, you think it's a joke, but it's not a joke, walked into a court. So it's not a joke, right? Serious. It was a public inquiry. And the Nigerian and the Indian are my friends, and the Englishman was our lawyer, and I was the Irishman. So we're called in to this public inquiry because we had a bus company running, but we got our license in the spring, and it's a tourist service, so you make your money in the spring and summer, but we had objections from other companies, other big companies. They prevented us starting our operations until November, which is winter, and we're obliged to run in the winter and make a loss every day. So by the time the year was turning, we were kind of cash flow problem situation. So we had to, well, we didn't have to, but we cut corners. And I was the transport manager responsible for all the legals for the company. And because they were my friends, I looked the other way as we didn't maintain the buses properly. And so unfortunately, as the season turned the following spring, and we wanted to now push, we're in a position to push, we wanted to get a third license and a third bus. We already had a third bus. We needed a third license. We had to apply to the traffic commissioner for the third license. But before we could apply, one of our buses was pulled over, tested, and failed on the roadside. So DVLA, now DVSA, Driver Vehicle Licensing Authority, they came to our business, checked our systems, and realized that we had really big systemic problems. So we were hauled before this public inquiry. So Irishman, Englishman, Nigerian, Indian turn up in court. And the first thing, because I was responsible for all the legals, so first thing the judge, the chairman of the inquiry said was, "Transport manager, what do you have to say?" So I said, well, I told her the situation. She was a lady judge. Told her the traffic commissioner. We were hard put for cash. We had just started all the blah, blah. So being my friends, I looked the other way, and I have to say to my friends that I did them a disservice, and I really apologize to them. I'm sorry that I did that because I could have put your company at risk. Now, we were looking for a third license. So our lawyer had a plan that if it looked like it was going south, then he would beg for mercy. So DVLA put their case forward, and it was really damning, obviously. And then, so our lawyer started summing up, saying, even if we don't get a third license, at least don't take all our licenses away. At least keep one license so we can keep going in business and recover. And she said, wait, hold on a minute. The Irishman, she didn't say Irishman, the transport manager said, sorry. And I can see that they've done a lot of work to improve things. So I'm going to give them another chance. Not only will I let them have the third license, I will keep watching them in London because I see their yellow buses around town. I'll keep watching them to see how they do, but I'll give them this chance. In the bus industry, it's never done like that, yeah? It was something unusual for her to see. Usually people come to court and say, love, this is how it was, because she's a woman, and talk to her condescendingly like that. So I guess she gave us that chance because we owned up, we took responsibility for our failures, and we had shown that we were making changes. Yeah. A few weeks, it feels like years ago now, we had a Prime Minister and Chancellor in power who, I shouldn't really talk politics, should I? Kemal Ataturk said, don't mix politics with religion because politics will always pollute religion. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Yeah, it's not the other way around. So anyway, Prime Minister Truss and her Chancellor, they had a plan to increase growth in the country by giving tax breaks to the well-off. Yeah. All of you. All of you. But anyway, it didn't come to pass. Very soon, the markets revolted, and they had to make a U-turn. Very soon, she was sacking her chancellor, blaming him for, he's the chancellor, he should fall on the sword. And he's come out recently to say, actually, he was cautioning her to slow down. So nobody actually wants to take responsibility for what happened. I mean, our mortgage increases, people's mortgages falling through. Nobody's taking responsibility for that, really. They say, you stop short of an apology. Yeah? So, taking responsibility, being responsible, is kind of a heavy burden. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, Stormzy says. But it's nobody wants. It's like a bad word, a difficult word. Nobody wants to take responsibility. We try to avoid it if we can. It's not fashionable. So I want us today to look at responsibility in a slightly different way. That maybe it's not a burden, but it's a blessing. It's an opportunity, rather than it being what we feel it to be today. We know the first responsibility given to humanity, Adam and Eve, was in the Garden of Eden. Who remembers what was their responsibility?
Commandment.
Follow the commandments, yeah. Not eat from the fruit, yes. That was, just follow God's word, really. And we say often that it's like 5% responsibility, yeah, and God does the 95% responsibility. Then God's will is accomplished. The 5%, as we all know, is symbolic of a small amount. In the case of not eating the fruit, Actually, it takes effort to eat fruit. So not eating fruit is almost like 0%, right? Don't do it. Just stay there, chill, you know. It takes effort to go and eat the fruit. It is even, you can think that it's even less than, I don't know if it's -5%. I don't know, mathematicians, yeah. Maybe it was -5. So when God gave them, it's not just a negative, don't do, but also the blessings, the 3 great blessings are also their responsibility to fulfill. Yeah. Fulfill the 3 great blessings, become mature. You really have to do stuff to get mature, which is follow God's word, right? So, and then multiply and then have dominion. So those are God's human portion of responsibility. All the readings today will be taken from the Chonsong-gyeon book 4, chapter 2. Before Adam and Eve committed the fall, certain responsibility had been given. I took advice from our pastor, Franklin Fortune, and I got myself some bifocals. Before Adam and Eve committed the fall, certain responsibility had been given only to them. Had they fulfilled this and emerged as the true parents, they would have been welcomed by all subsequent generations of parents. So it was a great hope for God when he gave them the commandments and blessings to become eternal true parents. Of course, this responsibility carried grave consequences if they got it wrong. But you can see, it is a blessing that God was giving them. They would have been welcomed by all subsequent generations of parents. I mean, you know, all of you have been babies before, right? Yes, yeah. Just checking. and some of you have been parents. And when your children were born and the baby came out and you saw them for the first time, what was your first impulse? Like, this is a blessing? Or, wow, how much am I going to spend on this baby? What responsibilities to look after this baby throughout their life? What was your first impulse? Was it a blessing? Or wait, blessing, yes. Yeah, but it's a responsibility as well. So responsibility is a blessing. If you fulfill it, it's a blessing. If you don't, it becomes a burden. If you fulfill your responsibility, you get the blessing. If you don't, you take responsibility right, for it. So, and yeah. So another reading. The portion of responsibility given to Adam and Eve was such that one mistake could result in a dreadful bottomless pit, like a cancer that could affect human beings for hundreds and millions of years. But nevertheless, Adam and Eve ate the fruit of good and evil. So how must God have felt as he witnessed them eating the fruit? This is still a reading. Even at the moment they deviated from the right path, God must have desperately wanted to believe that they would not fall into temptation. I was thinking about this recently. What actually is the fall? What constitutes the fall? We say Lucifer tempted Eve and they fell. Eve tempted Adam and they fell. And we say that when you fall, you're separated from the sight of God. However, we know that God entered the garden looking for them after they fell. And he spoke with them. Where are you? Why are you hiding? Who said you're naked? You know? Or the snake that the woman you gave me, you know, passing the blame, said that. Eat the fruit. But the snake you gave to us said we should eat the fruit. So nobody took responsibility. And it was at that point that the fall became sealed. It was only after they failed to take responsibility that the fall was sealed. At any point, if either of them had said, I'm sorry, it was my fault, I'm sure God could have intervened. Because it was a great hope for God and a blessing for Adam and Eve to become eternal true parents. God is eternal and unchanging. Therefore, his blessings for them will be eternal and unchanging. He would be desperate to ensure that they succeed. So he was asking them those questions, I believe, to give them the chance to take responsibility, which was still taking a blessing, and still fulfill their responsibility in their generation. God, from the perspective of the principle of creation, you must take full responsibility for your own actions, yes. Even though God carries a 95% portion of responsibility, we must take responsibility for the remaining 5%. These two combined make 100%. This is the principle of creation. The reason for this principle is that God wants us to participate in his creation, so we can be given the privilege and authority of co-creators. So it's similar to the reasons why God did not intervene in the fall. It's the same thing here. He did not intervene in the fall because he wanted Adam and Eve, humanity, to be co-creators. That's the second point. The first point, that for the absoluteness and perfection of the principle. And the third, what's the third? Somebody remind me. That was. There's a third. We'll come to it, yeah. The grey matter is going. So God's responsibility is 95%, while only 5% was given to human beings. Nevertheless, the first human beings could not meet even that standard. Thus, no sooner had history begun than it was plunged into darkness, so that human beings had not even the slightest taste of the true world. So even today, we live without ever having experienced a true world. When David was praying earlier at the opening of the service, he referenced the wars that were going on. And immediately I thought, this came from the fall of man. It is directly connected with the fall of man. So we have never lived in a true world. In spite of the many things that we can do, which we enjoy doing, it's still not the true world. It's just a little taste of it. So 5% is symbolic of the relatively small effort humans have to make. Yet we know it takes immense investment, all our effort, 100% effort in order to accomplish it. So what is the human portion of responsibility? First, it is to become true children. Second, to become true brothers and sisters. Third, to become true couples. And fourth, to become true parents. This is why we are born as babies and then become children, siblings, couples, and parents. As parents, you can create children on behalf of God. Then you can experience internally and externally the reality of God's happiness when he created Adam and Eve. So as our children are born, we are supposed to feel as God felt when he had that hope in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, that they could fulfill their responsibility. And for all parents, you feel this as well. You see your children grow up. You have hope for them, that they will accomplish certain things. Their hopes are dashed along the way. You have to comfort them, encourage them, keep them going. Sometimes they go a different path to where you'd want them to go, and it breaks your heart. But you can't stop them. You can't imprison them, right? They have to freely go the way of love, yeah, the way of God. Yeah, as a parent, you start to feel God's heart, when the children are fulfilling their responsibility, but also when they're challenging, when you think, don't do that, don't, because you've been down that road, right? And it will take superhuman effort to make it work going down that road. You really have to turn back and go God's way. So the reason God set the standard of the human portion of responsibility was to complete the ideal of God. He didn't do it to give us a burden to carry, that all through our life we should be fulfilling our responsibility with a heavy heart. That is something which weighs down on us. But he gave us that responsibility so that we could complete the ideal of love. God apportioned 5% of responsibility to human beings when he created them, because he needed them as his object partners, second point. So we can become his object partners. So one being alone cannot attain love. Even though God is omniscient and omnipotent, he cannot manifest his love without object partners. So God needed us as well to reach perfection and become his ideal object partners. When a teenager is without a companion, he or she does not even know that love exists. But when his or her partner of love appears, love begins to stir inside. I saw the couple on the Yumi News like that. I thought, oh, really, wow, so sweet, huh? Yeah. So, why did God give human beings a portion of responsibility? As he's omniscient and omnipotent, he wanted to endow us with those same creative abilities that we can become co-creators. Also, as God is a subject partner with eternal, is the same point, unchanging love, he vested human beings with a portion of responsibility in order to have us stand in the position to represent him as subject partners of love. Further, this became the condition for human beings to receive God's blessings. That is, responsibility is the key that can lead us to the dominion of love over everything. That is why God bequeathed this responsibility to human beings. However, the fall occurred because human beings failed to fulfill their portion of responsibility. So responsibility is the key that can lead us to dominion of love over everything. Had they taken this responsibility or taken responsibility for their actions, being responsible or taking responsibility, God could have intervened. So responsibility is the key. Take responsibility. So this again, God gave us our portion to enable us to attain true love. So this is a summary of the points. He wanted to endow us with those same creative abilities that we can become co-creators. God gave us our portion of responsibility because he wanted to enable us to attain true love. Without responsibility, we cannot attain true love. In order to have us stand in the position to represent him as subject partners of love. Responsibility is the key that can lead us into the dominion of love over everything. So in short, is to accomplish the three blessings. That is our responsibility. The responsibility is not something that you pass on to somebody else. It is not something somebody else can accomplish on our behalf, on your behalf, on my behalf. It's something which is a blessing to each and every one of us, that we can use that key to become connected with God and with God. In the industry I worked in before, in the bus industry, it was never right to take responsibility for anything. Even if you are trying to make things work where they were not working, what you should do is point the finger at who didn't make it work. Then you are out of the loop. But if you try to make it work and it doesn't, then you're the last person holding the baby. So you take responsibility. Doesn't matter, you were trying to fix it. In every, it happens in many walks of life, but in my industry, in the bus industry in particular, I experienced that personally. I was told, I explained, I'm trying to make this work, but we know it's not your fault. We can see that the problem is an engineering problem, but why did you drive the bus? So if anything, even if you have an accident with a stationary object, you don't own up. You have to be creative. The sun shone in my eyes, so blame God, blame. If you take responsibility, nobody's going to say, well, yeah, you put your hands up and therefore we're going to let you go, right? So this is the way it is in life, really. Nobody wants to take responsibility as if it becomes a burden for us, but that is the key. That is the way we can accomplish something. That is the way we can connect with God, connect with God's heart. That is the way we can serve others. Yeah. So the key is to take responsibility. So don't be averse to taking responsibility. If things go wrong, take responsibility for it, if it's your responsibility to take. Of course, there's other things we can talk about as not infringing on others' responsibility. I think since we are even reluctant to take our own responsibility, it's less likely we'll take others' responsibility, right? So we can focus on us taking our own responsibility and being responsible for the actions that we take. Yeah, this way we can unlock the treasures that God has planned for us. Thank you. Please join me in prayer. Beloved Heavenly Parents, you wanted to give us so much blessing, so much of your heart, of your love. That is why you gave us simple responsibility, but with profound meaning, Heavenly Parent. That if we could unite with your heart, unite with your word, then we'd be on the right path to establishing your kingdom on this earth, becoming your sons and daughters with whom you could have an eternal relationship of love. However, we failed to take responsibility. We did the wrong thing and didn't own up to it. And throughout history, we have seen conflict in ourselves, conflict in our environment because of us, and conflict amongst people. Up till today, there is still conflict all around the world. Because us who were given dominion of love over everything are still conflicted inside. Therefore, it is no wonder that this world, this earth, this cosmos is groaning in travail, waiting for the revealing of your sons and daughters. Heavenly Parent, please let us understand that right at the beginning, you wanted to give us so much, more than we can ever imagine, Heavenly Parent. It's not a burden that you put on humanity, but a blessing. It's so important to understand that so that we can see around us what it is that we can do, what responsibility we can take to restore this world. Heavenly Parent, we are each of us unique expressions of your love, of you, Heavenly Parent. And you want through each of us to accomplish great things on this earth. So please let us awaken to our responsibility. Take our responsibility gratefully. See the opportunity that it brings, the blessing that it is. Embrace it and accomplish it, Heavenly Parent. And where we fail, and we will fail many times, we want to own up. We want to come to you and say, sorry, Heavenly Parent, that we made a mistake. Show us the way to rectify it. Show us the way to go so that we can come back on the path to consoling your heart and building your kingdom. Heavenly Parent, please be with all our community here. We thank you that you could give us so much blessings. We know there are many challenges too, but those are opportunities for us, Heavenly Parent, to approach with the right attitude, with the right heart, and enable you to work through us. Show us the way to resolve those issues, or to approach or to engage with those issues, so that we can be representative of you in everything that we do. Heavenly Parent, thank you so much that you gave us responsibility. Us alone, humans alone, were given this responsibility. And it is us alone that can accomplish this responsibility. So please guide us. Forgive us for all the past mistakes, Heavenly Parent. There are many we don't even realize we have made, which have trampled on your heart, Heavenly Parent. So we want to start afresh every day. Come to you in the morning, come to you as we wake, to empty ourselves to you and open our hearts to you. Let you guide us on our daily path. Thank you, Heavenly Parent, that we know true parents. We know how you have toiled throughout history with all your saints and sages and your Son Jesus and our true parents. We understand these things. So we have such a great advantage, Heavenly Parent. And with that comes even greater responsibility. We pray for our brothers and sisters in Japan who are being unjustly persecuted right now, that they can overcome the situation, that we can help them in whatever way we can, actively help them, who have helped us over the years. We can support them to overcome this persecution and to enable Japan to take its rightful position as Eve nation to bring great blessing to Japan and to the world. I want to report everything to you. In my name, Adza and Mould of the Central Best Family, Arju.